Well, hello and welcome to the premiere of the Boat Talks live streaming. And it's great to be back. And if you're normally in the hall to watch these events, well, we miss you. But if you're new to the talks and probably not living anywhere near the Boat of Garten, you're very welcome, and we hope that you'll stick with us. We're keen to sustain the programme of talks during these curious and challenging times, albeit on a scaled-down version. And this has only been possible thanks to the speakers who are willing to put themselves through the nerve-wracking ordeal of doing a live stream, but also to the advice and support and assistance that we've had from Graham Atkinson, the local Church of Scotland minister, who's used his knowledge and expertise to help set all this up for us. So really very, very grateful, and many thanks to Graham. Normally at this stage in the proceedings, I'd do the housekeeping. I'd sort of indicate where the toilets are and where the fire alarms are and what the fire drill is. But I'm guessing that you know where your toilets are and you know if you're going to check your fire alarms, so we can skip all that. So I'll go straight on to introducing our speaker, who is Kevin Woods, who's based in Glasgow, but spends most of his time roaming around the mountains of Scotland. He's an all-round good guy, he really is. He does a lot of, he's a qualified winter mountain leader and therefore does a lot of work in the mountains, taking clients on adventures. But he's also a professional filmmaker, and he's got a number of TV credits under his belt. So I think we're in for some really good photographic images tonight. But he's also a drummer in a rock band. So he's a man of many talents, and I'd really recommend, if you haven't already done so, going onto his website, Kevin Woods Mountaineering. If you Google that, you'll get there, and you'll get lots of good information, but also in a very entertaining way. So last winter, Kevin set out to probably be only the third person to achieve a continuous round of the Munros in the winter period. And tonight's talk, which is going to be his first attempt at describing this challenge, is going to be taking us through the mountains of Scotland in winter. And I think that will be a really interesting adventure for us to share. So you can now get yourself a glass of beer, sit back, and really enjoy Kevin. So Kevin, the floor, or should I say the screen, is all yours.
Cool. Cheers. Cool. Thanks for having me. Just when I was listening there, I was getting a little bit of feedback. So if it would be okay for yourself just to put some headphones in on your end, Mike, and that should solve some of my problems. Yeah, cool. So let's just go for it. And yeah, just beforehand, I just want to double check with yourself, Mike, just before we go. We didn't have this problem when we were starting, just when we were getting going. So yeah, Mike, if you either turn down or yeah, just turn down or put some headphones in, that would be really helpful.
Is there still a problem with sound?
Nope, you got headphones in?
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. I think go for it.
Weird. Cool. Good stuff. Right. Okay. I'll get going. If anybody, I'm going to take these out because they are creating some funniness. So I'm just going to get going. So where do we begin? Cool. If anybody hears some sort of funniness that's out there watching, just give us a shout and let us know. It might just be on our end. So first time we've done this. This is the first time I've done an online talk. And yeah, so it's really nice to be here. And it's really nice to have been asked by Boat of Garten Hall to come along and speak virtually from home. So I'm doing the talk on the subject of the Munros in winter. So if you can, just go across to my screen. So we're going to share a screen. I've got some photographs. I've got some videos. So it's a bit of a combination. Tons to get through. It's hard to combine 3 months into about 45 odd minutes. So here we go. So yeah, if you guys could combine, just bring up the screen. I have some photos to show you all. That's looking good. Awesome stuff. That's great. Cool. So yeah, the Winterman Roads. Yeah, really nice to be here and really nice to be talking about it. Awesome stuff. Let's first talk on the subject. Cool. I'll just start like right. So yeah, the Winterman Roads. Yeah, really nice to be here. What are we dealing with? What are they? Awesome stuff. So here's the first talk on the subject. This is yeah, you can see we've got this. This is Rock Highlands. And you can just see the spread of Munros here. So yeah, mountains over 3,000 feet in Scotland. They're all pretty evenly distributed in the Highlands. And if I was to break it down, you can sort of break it into some areas. So you've got the Southern Highlands down at the bottom here, and then when you kind of go up, you out in the east, you've got the Cairngorms, Eastern Highlands, Glen Shee. Coming across, you've got Lochaber, which is a big central area in the middle, big western hills, and then there's a final large chunk, which is the Northwest Highlands. And I always think of it as breaking it into three. You've got the whole Southern Highlands in Glencoe. You've got that Cairngorms to Lochaber, and then you've got the Northwest Highlands. That's really sort of breaks down that way, and it's kind of useful to think about it, especially with these kind of big trips. Yeah. So the whole winter round thing it's happened before. It's certainly not the first. We had like Martin Moran went out and did in 1984, 1985, and published a great book about it. Steve Perry did a backpacking trip about 15 years ago, and yeah, I actually never wrote anything about it, but yeah, pretty astonishing. And I'd always heard about them and certainly wondered about them and thought about it and just had it in the back of the head. But from my own point of view, I've always been hill walking. I've got kind of, yeah, I did, I don't know, took about 6 years of concentrated effort for a first Munro round. And then summer 2013, I did a second Munro round, which was kind of just all in kind of 3 month period. That was nice. And it was really challenging for me at the time. So when I did it, it was like, that was quite hard to do, but really enjoyed doing it. And I've always just been consistently since going out. And then some point after that, someone actually loaned me this book here, which is by Mike Cawthorn. And if you don't have it, it's hell of a journey. Go get it. So I read this book. This guy did, it wasn't the Munros quite, but it was 1,000 meter peaks in the Highlands in a winter. And like, if anyone's read it, it's like such desolate description, like beautifully desolate descriptions of the Highlands scenery and mountains. And I don't know what, it's just like a light bulb. So yeah, that was amazing. That was amazing to read. So I started thinking, and I was really, really casually thinking about, well, how do you go about this? How do you do the Munros? How do you, that's just so big, that just seems completely ridiculous. And I wasn't even really seriously thinking about it, but I just started taking down weather records. Now I've got a few technical like graphs here. I've got like, yeah, a couple of spreadsheets. I'm not going to bog it down with this at all, but this was really crucial for me in terms of like breaking down the whole thing. And I think that's a really good place to start, because that's where I started with it. So this here is a spreadsheet. So it's a 4 month period. It's part of a 4 month period of time, yeah, 2016 there. And I was doing this every winter. And I would take down the weather forecast. I would take down the 3 major upland weather stations in the Highlands. So that is Cairngorm, Anachmore, Dealach na Ba, and then just kind of put in comments and what was that like? What was the avalanche forecast like? And then if you laid a plan across that weather forecast, what did that look like? And it's like, God, that's there's quite a lot to it. There's quite a lot of things going on, and winter weather's so volatile that, you know, you're working with chaos all the time. So it's good to try and like batter it down these ways, try and work out what's going on and how best to your conditions. And this is all at home in the computer all the time. Look at SEIS, avalanche forecast, look at weather forecast, work out look at what's going on, just gain a picture every single day about what's and this is all at home on the computer all the time, look at ArcGIS. So then I could take all that data and start to put it into graphs. So there's a graph, and I was doing this every season at first, not so seriously. But this is really, you can see here, this is freezing level in blue, and then gusts of wind, and you can see the varying air masses. You can see different things going on. So yeah, this is really what I was trying to do. Here's another aspect to it. Oh, I'll come to that in a sec. I'll just double check. Yeah, it's a little bit muffled, but not. Yeah, we'll go with that. So this here is like a map of slopes, and particularly slope aspects. So what's going on here is that you think about, well, how do you move across the mountains? And this is, well, we're looking really at avalanches here. So, and what's going on with them? How do you rationalize them out? And so I started doodling in Photoshop, and all the red slopes are basically the prime avalanche terrain. And then you go to green and it gets lower angled. So this doesn't tell you everything. It's a very incomplete picture, but it does tell you something about how you might move across the ground, how you might get safe travel choices through kind of complex mountain areas. And I drew these for quite a lot of like the really critical areas. Some of the areas are quite like complex ground with ridges and plateaus and spurs and all sorts of stuff going on. So that was another just part of the process. And again, a lot of this was just doodling. It was just pure like curiosity. I'd love to know how this stuff works, and maybe someday think towards doing Munros. So to take one practical example, this is Devil's Point. And you can see the photo there in winter. You've got this corrie at the top. It's like a head wall corrie, and it comes up to meet the plateau. And most of the ground is like, in terms of slope angle, is okay, but avalanches are really sensitive to slope angle. Once you get past 35 and then into 37 degrees, things get critical. So if you've got snow piling and loading into there, then that's like, oh God, right, yeah, you don't want to be doing that. So in this case, this corrie is maybe not infamous, but I certainly always had it in the back of my mind, because the top of the corrie is exactly what you don't want, especially after a long day on a plateau and you just want to get down. So it's like, pay attention to these moments, and here that you can see the majority of the travels might be safe, but there might be problems at the head wall. And that's fine. Like ultimately in that whole world, it's like you can't do anything about that. If the snow is bad, the snow is bad. All you can do is just understand your travel choices. And the thing in winter is like there may be multiple travel choices. So it's that sort of thing, and it's just taking all this chaotic stuff and then trying to put it together into some coherent way, in some way that you can travel through in spite of all these different factors. So a bunch of other things that went towards this. This is really all the leading up to the final stuff. So first of all, start at the bottom, the time frame of the round. The people that have done this so far really just have had slightly different metrics. It's always start in December and finish in March, but you know what, someone's maybe done like the 1st of December, somebody else has done the 22nd or 21st of December. So I just thought, start on the shortest day of the year, and then you're working into slightly longer daylight. And with an addition to that, very purposely, like not putting anything whatsoever onto it. Yeah, just take the time and go as fast as you can go. Yeah, I'm just noticing here. I'm just going to put my headphones on for a second. So we're getting a couple of comments, just saying we've got either muffled audio or we've got no audio. And just to double check, it would be good if people could just put a comment in just to double check that, even if it's slightly, I think it is slightly low frequency, but just let me know if you can hear us. Yeah, we set it up, but you can't quite tell if it's, yeah, until you actually do it. So yeah, drop us a comment, but I'll keep going. So first of all, I should go immediately to funding sponsorship. So yeah, So I do a lot of self-employed work. It's really helped me to be able to do things like this. I've been able to raise money. So you raise the money and then you can go away and do a trip, and you raise some money and you go away and do a trip. It's a way of doing it. Cheers. Sounds good. Awesome. Thank you. But I also got a lot of help, and I'd actually just genuinely like to give a shout out to these folks. So in terms of sponsorship, I was sponsored by Especially Laterally pacer poles. Really unique style of pole to keeps your posture good. Petzl head torches, Osprey rucksacks. I used La Sportiva boots, and I kept them really light because just for fast mountain travel. Never wanted to wear anything too heavy if I didn't have to. Sometimes if it was a more climbing day, I would use a heavier boot just for the stability that you get from a rigid boot, but that was kind of it. But I should also give a shout out, mountain equipment, massive help, acres of support. And in some ways for these companies, I mean, of course I would give the sponsorship, like these are the people who sponsored it, but in another way, it's like, well, actually, this really did genuinely make a difference. So yeah, that was great. And then everything else can go into like food, food and everything else. So moving on, I've got a short video here. So this is the first of a few videos. This just deals with the very first day. I traveled to the Isle of Mull. As I've said so far, I spent years, and then like really concentratedly putting everything together. And yeah, it just came to a point where like, right, it's the shortest day of the year. Got to go to Mull, get this show on the road at last. So here we go. Isle of Mull, Ben Moore. Isle of Mull, Ben Moore. Isle of Mull, Ben Moore. There we go. Summit Ben Moore. Isle of Mull, Ben Moore. Cheers, sir. There we go. It's really good as well. Conditions are pretty benign. I mean, it feels windy. Isle of Mull. So there you go. Yeah, very quick. Really kind of dark day. Yeah. Oh, let's move on. There we go. There's me and Struan came along. Struan came along to see me off in the first one. First hill day. Yeah, so that was just summit number 1. So this was actually the living environment. So I never mentioned this at the beginning. So this is this here I had 2 thoughts in my mind. Yeah, I'm just looking at the chat here, and audio has been in and out. So we've got some funnies going on with the audio. We'll see about the videos. I could play them without sound and talk about them. So let me know again. So we've just come off the video, and maybe I could just keep talking here, and then yeah. So let me know if it's working just now. If the audio's back, cool. So that's awesome. Okay, now brilliant. So yeah, so this is really this is a van I used, and so there was 2 ways of doing it. I thought about backpacking the whole thing, and I was seriously thinking about it. Like a backpack would be brilliant. It would be really wild. It would be flipping difficult. It would be really difficult. But there was a couple of things, and for a variety of reasons, partly just logistics and needing to rely on people and all sorts of stuff like that. I just quite late on thought, do you know what, actually I'll go with the van thing. So I bought one, and very basic, did it up, but it just gave a little sanctuary, a little home. It meant that you can choose your mountains, and all in all, it was actually a really good idea, because with the weather we got was absolutely horrendous. And actually, given the winter we had, glad that it happened. Glad that I got the van. So early days was really just about making an impression. It was like all the 4 Cruachan Munros in a runner, all the Bridge of Orchy Munros, yeah, just absolutely superb days. Really enjoyed them, and it was quite tense about get going, get out there, and really just try and get on it at the pace you want to go as well. You know, I want to push this. I want to go and do it. So that was good. That was good. And then 4 days into it, Christmas Day, I was running down Benmore, and that was the problem. I've never had this in my life, but I sometimes was finding that it was like, yeah, it was kind of like I was running down and my ankle just like snapped forward. And what it actually did was compressed in the Achilles and crunched all that together. And I've never had that in like, well, 30 years for me of walking. Never happened. And I spent ages rubbing this sort of just hurt, trying to get it out. And I was actually really worried that like 4 days into the thing that I just messed it up. Like that just came out of nowhere. Luckily, it was okay, but it was actually really, really sore for quite a long time. Like I think it took like 6 months to get better, fully better, fully better. So it's one of these just weird upsets that you get. And then after that, just getting stuck into the Southern Highlands, Glencoe. If anybody was around at Hogmanay last year, this was Hogmanay, which was like the most astonishingly good hill day. It was like all the bad days had just broken away. And yeah, absolutely incredible. One day of brilliant, bright sun, and yeah, that was just fantastic. So I was on this is Stop Jerrick in Glencoe on the Buchan, and that day I just went all the way to Bidgin Nambian. This photo here is looking south to Ben Cruachan, and once again it was like, right, these are the kind of days that I want to do. I want to go and do big days. So yeah, that was the Buccleuch Mor, that was Buccleuch Beg, and that was Bidgin Nambian in like 7 hours a day or something. So that was it. That was it. Days more often looked like this. So this here was really, this was Stop Gower, and you would get these peppering the snow. The snow was really reluctant to come. And when it did, it would be a peppering, and then it would disappear for a day in the storm winds. But mostly, the early period was just stormy, like stormy, stormy, stormy. It wouldn't stop. So yeah, I just thought, yep, just keep battering on in the daylight. So yeah, moving on again. Just more look at this. I mean, so we've got Ben Aveir with no snow on it. We've got a lightning strike at the top of Ben Scullard North Top. Balhulish Horseshoe, everything's just like dark December, and also like no snow for a lot of the times. So yeah, just keep kind of cracking on and just keep going for it. This is Lucas who we met at Queen Lanark, went up some of the hills there, up in the corner, and that's also a point to make, because you almost never saw anybody out in the hills. It was like just quiet. So yeah, just cold, drab winter hills, but I was loving it. Just kind of get on with it and making as much progress as possible. So a pattern started to develop where what I was discovering was you would get these really intense low pressures coming through, and then they would disappear off out of sight. And then they'd rattle back in and disappear out of sight, and you would get these calm periods between the low pressures. And what ended up happening was that the calm periods between the really bad weather never coincided with daylight. So I was like, right, well, I'd rather walk if it's dark but the weather's good than like walk through horrendous weather. So this photo here is Loch Sloy, all looking a bit creepy in the moonlight. It's a long exposure, and this is me on top of Ben Vorlich. So we just had a really kind of nice dark day, yep, with a head torch, and I got off something like 9 or 10 or something at night. But it had been worth it because the entire day before this had just been like incessant torrential rain, and I was like, well, I don't want to go out in that. So I'll just wait. And the weather forecast here, so MWIS weather forecast in the corner, is the following day, which is like 60 to 80 gusts of 100, and they say incessant rain. And actually I had to get a wee repair done in the van, so I just did that instead. It was my first day off. So some days are just like that. Like occasionally it's very, 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 very occasionally it was yeah, that is so bad you're not going to be able to do anything. So, and then you get days like this. And this was Ben Callum. This is Ben Callum at Glenlochy. I did a big round. This was like the second day of good weather. This is like 2 weeks in, and it's like the second day of good weather. And big 11-hour day on the hills. Yeah, that was brilliant. Just all the summits and the skyline. It's actually a really hard hill day. And this one nice afternoon popped out of nowhere. Now you talk about like, why do you want to do these things, and what does a winter round give you that's like, why are you pushing all the time? And sometimes I think this is a really good example of it, because that night, this is the moonlight on Ben Haishgunach to the north of Glenlochy. And I mean, it's totally calm. It's just moonlit. And I'm just wandering around in the Munros, on top of the Munros myself. Just having a brilliant time. Yeah. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. And a bit of contrast. A day or two later, here's another video. This is what happened, like, with the weather front. Another weather front comes smashing in. So we'll try the audio on or off. We'll see how this one goes. Feedback helps because I can see what's kind of happening there when you give feedback. So here's some torrential rain. So here's some torrential rain. Cool. So yeah, in between all this really good weather, sometimes it's not so good. This was another like absolutely magnificent evening here. So this is a photo from the top of Mael Gurdy. Just after that, so you saw that rain there, that fell for 24 hours straight, all the way into a late afternoon in beginning middle of January. And I was like, oh god, yeah, I'm not too keen on that. But I just waited. So I waited until maybe mid-afternoon and then headed out. And I was in Sciathul in Glenlochy at first, so went up that. So that was sort of dinner time, and then Mael Gurdy was like 9, 10 at night, and then I was up in the summit for like 11 midnight. And I mean, I was just loving it. Here you go, like pepperings of snow, total calm, moonlight, and you're just meditatively walking, plodding in the middle of the night. Just snow showers coming by, the moonlight's catching bits of, and you just got this incredible sensual sort of visual experience. And it's like, if the weather was perfect, I might never have seen that. I might not have gone and done that. I ended up getting back down at like 2 in the morning or something like that, just absolutely buzzing, loved it. And then I was up like 5 hours later or something like that for a day at Glen Lyon, with Struan and Andy and sort of the circuit of 4. So did that, and then for the following day, I had a weather forecast that looked a bit like the top corner. So this is a weather forecast for one of my last days in the Southern Highlands, and so the photo's taken on top of Schiehallion, and it's taken at 1 a.m. the following night after the Glen Lyon day, which is also the day after the night on Mael Gurdy. So you've got a hill day, a hill night, and a hill day, and a hill night all together. But I'm just running around weather front. So for a bit of perspective, in the photograph here, if you looked at that, the weather forecast on that day for 3 o'clock was it was like persistent blizzards and 100-mile-an-hour gusts. I mean, what are you going to do? So yeah, Schiehallion at 2 in the morning. And then I had one final summit left in the Southern Highlands before moving on, which was Muireann Tarmachan, just by chance. And that was another day where a huge front this was the day the front was coming in. So I just went straight from Schiehallion, Muireann Tarmachan very quickly. And as I was doing that, you had this really gloomy dawn and another weather front piling in. You can see on the map there that's the whole kind of Southern Highland area in blue that I'm talking about. So these are Walk Highlands maps, and I just kept a tally of that as it was going, just to kind of keep updated, remind myself. And after that, it was just to move on to new areas after I'd been up Muireann Tarmachan. So that was 72 Munros, 23 days, and I was pretty pleased about that, having just been through all these storms. Like, how many storms can you have? So yeah, I moved north and east up towards Glen Shee. So the weather forecast wasn't showing any signs of getting any better. It wasn't really looking like it was going to improve. To the contrary, they were now talking about like persistent blizzards with all the wind and all the snow to accompany it. So it's like, right, keep it slightly conservative. If the weather from this point had ever broken to good, it would have been a brilliant time to go across to the Northwest Highlands and get stuck into some like big trips. Because one of the things I didn't quite touch on right at the beginning was that very often in a winter season, the air mass like markedly fluctuates. You'll get southerly and then westerly and then east, and then we get a northerly wind, cold, calm, maybe, and then it goes back to west, etc. It just keeps on changing. So if you can deal with that, if you can sort of use those weather quirks, then you can get a lot of places and get into the right corner. As it was, I was just getting persistent westerly winds, and yeah, they just weren't stopping. So I headed across to this place, Glen Shee, in blizzards, as I said, and had a few days there that were just kind of plain rough. And the hill days weren't especially big because you would I was getting vans stuck in snow and the roads were clogged and it's all this sort of stuff. So you kind of have to just rein it in a little bit. And then after that, I met Helen Renard. So myself and Helen went into the Cairngorms, and this was like the first big trip of the whole winter. It was one of the biggest. So it was 4 days. So it was 4 bothy nights and 4 fairly big hill days, just to clear the range from east to west, starting at Braemar, finishing in Glenfeshie. So it's really nice sort of continuity that way. Helen's pal Al in Aviemore also came in halfway, and it's one of these things with these trips where, in trying to get across the Cairngorms in these conditions, it's like you're trying to pack as light as you possibly can. Now, Al brought in a whole load of stuff into Cadaver, so for like this one night, you could just like stuff your face all night, and it really made a huge difference, because the first thing you're trying to get rid of is like, oh, maybe I'll leave the camera, maybe I'll just cut back and fiddle. I don't want to, but everything worked out really well with the Cairngorms. So like halfway through, we had these amazing kind of conditions, really nice weather, some of the better weather, and then halfway across the Cairngorms, it actually turned to like drizzle, and it warmed up again, and we came out Cadaver one morning, and it's like, oh, where's the snow gone? The snow's all just disappeared. So so the second half of the Cairngorms was, it was really pretty. It was still like flipping tough, really tough, because you've just got that like 1 degree, 50-mile-an-hour winds and like persistent drizzle. And Helen and I went out for 10 hours or 11 hours, and it was like Devil's Point up to Brideach, down to Benbroten, and we were back at Cadaver like way after dark. So yeah, that was a pretty tough day, but final day walking out to Glenfeshie over Scorgui, that's what the second picture is here, and there is almost no snow. And there began a kind of period of several days. I got Loch na Garden, I got to the Mona Leith all done in a day, that was good. And also across to Ardvreckie, slightly more west, if anybody knows that. All with like essentially no snow, because it's like, where did winter go? Winter's just disappeared. So that was kind of, oh well, I'll just keep on going then. Fine. So I'm going to show you another video. This video here, it does have a bit of sound, it does have a bit of commentary, so I'm just going to run it. I'll let the Boat Talk guys do any unmuting or anything. So a short video about the Tarff area. The Tarff area, when I went there, it was like winter just came back in a flash. Deep snow. You'll see what it looks like. It was like, oh my goodness. So here we go. Deep snow. You'll see what it looks like. It was like, oh my goodness.
If you ever really wanted the Tarff in winter, this is, I think, exactly how you would want it.
Deep snow.
It's just white and
You'll
snowing.
see what it looks like. It was like,
really quite exhilarating. If you ever really wanted the Tarff in winter, this is, I think, exactly how you would want it. Just walking through this white and snowing to get there. Through this white and snowing to get there. Snow. It's all collected behind the heather in these big ice cream rolls. So you just laugh it here, and the next step's heather, and the next one you disappear. Heather. These big ice cream rolls. So you just laugh it here, and the next step's heather, and the next slightly melty. Heather.
Yeah, so that was the turf, and that was that day there in Benjeric. That was like the most. That was like, yeah, it was definitely like that was actually a hard day. That was now difficult. Um, so I took my headphones out. They're just lying by the side, so I couldn't tell if that was good audio or not, but whatever. Yeah, that's like, it's funny that sometimes circumstance comes together in the wrong way. I mentioned earlier that things in winter they can be really chaotic. So you can have bad weather one day. You can have better weather the next day. Your snow can come in and then it disappears another day. So things are moving really rapidly. And on this particular day, which was Benjeric, they all came together like wrong. So I actually had a migraine that day. So I was walking with a migraine, trying to clear it with a pill. The snow had got really deep, and there was a storm coming in as well. There was a weather front coming in, so it's like you're walking out, just trying to get out to Blair Athol with all the snow blowing in your face, and the snow is like sticky, and it's just sticking to everything. And as I said, everything's covered up, so it's like all these circumstances just come together in exactly the wrong way. And there's not much to be done about that. You know, it's one of those things. It's like, well, I'm here in the middle of nowhere. It's just get on with it. You know, it's not really much else to it. So yeah, just get on with it. So here's another second. This was the following day. So very quick, yep, 20-second video. It's only got mostly wind sound. So this is on top of Benaglow the following day. The snow had disappeared again. Another erratic rise in temperature. And this is halfway through this day, the wind speed turned on like a switch. Like unbelievable. I barely ever felt anything like it in my life. At the 1 minute it was tolerable, and the next minute I was just like getting dragged along the top of the snow, trying to sort of keep myself upright. It was really good fun, and I got over the hills quickly. But the wind was the Cairngorm weather station was like 130 miles an hour, 40 or something stupid. So here we go. 130 miles an hour, 40 or something stupid. So here we go.
Shelter in the stomach here, the wind. Shelter in the stomach here, the wind.
There you go. There you go. I'll just do another shout out actually, because again I can't hear anything. Just let me know if like that is all in sync and there's no repetition or anything like that, because I can slightly tweak how I'm going to do things. I've got a few other videos coming up, so just drop a comment and I can see it. So the other thing that happened was that opened the way to the west, really. You can see here's a quick Munro map again, progress marker, and you can see that I'm sort of running out of Eastern Hills. But I've really sort of done everything now in the east, so God, right, okay, time to move on. And I'm sort of slowly pushing west, and it's really exciting having this. Yeah, it's really exciting having this sort of like sense of progress. Really enjoyed that about it. I'd say that's one of the really nice sort of elements to the whole thing. Yeah, really enjoyed it. So this day here in the picture, this is Craigmeggy. This is in that area, and again, like the snow, you've got masses of snow in the corries, and then sometimes in the flanks, you're actually walking on decent ground. So in some ways, it was okay to make really quick progress. Now from here on, I was in Lochaber. And actually, I have to give it to Helen who joined us. Because she gave us loads of support at this point, because what happened was that I just suddenly would find that I could really, you know, it's like food was maybe sorted or something, or I had a place to dry kit out. And what it meant was that hill days could be going from, say, if they'd been like 8 hours or something like that, suddenly they could go to like 10 or 11, just having a bit of help. And it was no joke. It was like, it just became really rapid fire. So this is Craigmeggy, and the following day, this is Loch Treg, 4 Munros, 2 Munros on either side. And then crossing over, and then you're down into the Bothy. Brad Kane walked into Ladig Bothy with some of my stuff, so it meant I could travel light. That was brilliant. So I came down to Ladig Bothy like middle of the night again. It's really dark. So the picture in the dark there, that's actually Stubcod Aison above there. Sort of last light of the night. Yeah. So down to the Bothy afterwards, and then the following day across to Ben Nevis. So that's like another awesome day. I'm just reading the comments. A couple of people are saying that the audio again. So a couple of people are saying the audio is going round several times. Is that while I'm speaking? Let me know if that's why. Hopefully it's only just the videos. It would be more of a problem if it's repeating while I'm talking to you. But yeah, drop a comment in. So yeah, Ben Nevis. So left the Ladig Bothy, went to went as far as over the Grey Corries, onto the Annex, onto Ben Nevis. Yeah, Brad helped me out with the kit. Helen met me on the summit, and then walked back down into Fort William. Yeah, that was good. Another nice long day just with the videos. Cheers for that. I think we'll have to resign ourselves to the videos having a bit of delay. What the heck? But that's fine. I've got a few more videos coming up anyway. So here we go. Moving on. It was another good day. So Glenfinnan bunch. This was the following day, actually. Yeah, day after Ben Nevis. So this was like the Glenfinnan Horseshoe, and then across to Galvin. Another big day. So nice. Helen brought a bike in, so I could come off Galvin and then just jump on a bike and straight back out. These things make a humongous amount of difference. Following day after that as well. So Mamors. So got the 10 Mamors. The forecast for this day wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad at all, but when I actually got onto the ground, it was like, oh god, it was a bit worse than I thought it was going to be. So the first few summits were like not too bad, and if anyone knows the Mamors, they're a group of 10, and you start in the west, and you kind of work or east or west, and it's just a big ridges all day, and they are brilliant, but I couldn't see a thing all day. It was sheeting it down with drizzle. It was like a degree or so it's also really cold. And at first it was just a really fun day because you're sort of running around all these just running around all these ridges. It was brilliant. So yeah, that was great. But on so Nagruakin and Binion Moor 7 and 8, things did start to feel like quite serious. And I started to feel a bit like, oh, this is not quite right. But by that point I was sort of committed. It was the biggest day of the winter in terms of sort of time and mileage ascent, but it was also like, had to grit your teeth to get through that one. This was the following day. So this day was Ben Alder, and I don't think I would have got out of bed if it wasn't like a decent forecast. But this was one of the very, very few great forecasts of the winter. Yeah, we almost never saw anything like this. Such a rare day to see any form of sim. So I ended up I started at Kidawr, bike down at the Loch, and then over all the Munros to Ben Alder, and it's just like snow and sun. Really enjoyed it, and weirdly enough, it felt like a holiday, which was quite rare because normally you were sort of slogging it out in rain, rain and snow and just horrible weather. This is sort of south to the Southern Highlands, and then it got really magical because my day was once again longer than daylight, and I ended up walking over onto Ben Alder after the sun went down, and it was really one of the most stunning moments that I've had all winter. Ben Alder at night, middle of winter. How's about that? Just wandering about. Helen was down in Ben Alder Cottage with supplies, cook up dinner, all that sort of stuff. That was just brilliant. Yeah. So yeah, that was great. So moving on, things changed quite a lot. Yeah, the winter was divided into two parts. We'd had this sort of stormy but kind of doable weather, and then it appeared in the weather forecast in the first week of February that it was going to be just relentless polar maritime So it's cold air, but it's coming off the sea, so it's wet. And this is just prime for giving you blizzards. And it's prime for giving you blizzards in the Northwest Highlands at exactly the point that I had run out of mountains that went in the Northwest Highlands. So it's starting to like, I'm not getting a break whatsoever. So unfortunately, we've got this delay because I've got a little video here of the Northwest storms, and it's kind of going to sound a bit weird if it's all delayed, but I'm just going to play it anyway. So yeah, here we go. I'm on headphones, so I should be muted anyway. But yeah, we'll play this and see how far we get. If it gets too annoying, turn off your audio and good stuff. Yeah, we'll play this and see how far we get. If it gets too annoying, turn off your audio.
The wind has picked up. It signals a change in the weather. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll play this and see how far we get. If it gets too annoying, turn off your audio.
It signals a change in the weather. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll play this and see how far we get. If it gets too annoying, turn off your audio.
Yeah, with all the storms coming through, it just makes it really hard to get anything done. And it's not just that there's one storm and then it's gone again, and then there's a storm and then it's gone again. What's happening is you get these humongous areas in the Atlantic Ocean that are just rotating, and then it's gone again. The majority of the size of the Atlantic Ocean. Humongous areas in the Atlantic Ocean that are just rotating, and then it's gone again. The majority of the size of the Atlantic Ocean. Heading up to the beginning of the Craigshire Ridge. Heading up to the beginning of the Craigshire Ridge. Okay, I'm glad you had a moment. Really bad. Okay,
Yeah, that is like a totally crazy remix, isn't it? It sounded mostly, yeah, it actually came across kind of quite well there. I put my ears in. That was cool. That was cool. But so the point with this year was that for about 2 weeks in February, I did not get very much done because I think that sums it up quite well. In February, it was just like horrendous conditions, and you got to be so careful you got to be careful as well, you know, because we're having persistent, like, it's always blizzards or it's lightning. There was one night I actually woke up like 3 a.m. with a lightning crack, not like a rumble, but like a loud bang just above me. It's like, oh, lightning and storms, and of course avalanche hazard off the back of storms. So yeah, it all just kept on coming, and it does depress the effort level a little bit. But I should also say, in the middle of all of this, you also have days like this. And this was another day out with Helen where, like, one day of perfect weather in the middle of February, like on either side was just weeks of storms. This was also, I should also say, like, for a bit of perspective, this day up in Skirn and Kirwan at the top of Glen Affleck. So walked in there from the west coast and back out again. This was the 5th day of settled and sunny and clear weather in 7 weeks. There were other days that were kind of nice, mostly nice, but this was like, if you're looking at really good weather, it's like the 5th day, and it's like, I'm 7 weeks in. This is ridiculous. So yeah, really appreciated moments when they do come, absolutely. And going further into that, so here's Malcolm Jerrick. this is Cowlin Forest just south of Torridon, and just to take a moment to talk about decision making. Right, this is a mountain here in the lower left that is loaded up with snow, absolutely prime to avalanche. And moreover, if you look really carefully, if anybody can actually see my cursor at the minute, you can see the summer path going right up through the middle of the corrie in front of the mountain, and just obscured with snow. And I would not touch any of that snow with a barge pole. All the avalanche forecasts at that part were like high, and I only managed to get up this mountain by doing a 4-hour trench from 300 meters altitude to the summit, just digging a trench through this stuff. It was just insane. It was ridiculous. And I found a couple of little ribs up through the corrie that is like, there's your safe travel, but it was like one rib in an entire corrie. And if that hadn't been there, then it's like that wouldn't have worked whatsoever. So pretty ridiculous, really. So yeah, that's the thing. It works by the tiniest of margins. That day I was also going to go and do 2 more Munros, and it's just not going to happen. Just sort of exhausted by the end of it. So yeah, winter conditions. Here's one more. This is Tomaconich at Glen Affric. There's the avalanche forecast. So this is SAIS, where you get the forecast from. And if I was to go on from the summit that I'm on to that other summit, you're crossing right into the red zone, essentially, which is you just don't do it. But the problem that I also had was that I was beginning to run out of summits and things. It's like I've got limited places I can now go. I've got some really committing backpacks to do, and the weather is just not coming good. Like I'm getting to a point where everything's converging, and it's now really slowing me down. So it was getting quite like come on, quite slightly frustrating, but like at the same time it's like well, that's what you wanted, so no, it's all good. You just take it as it comes, and you only treat each day by day. It's very systematic, very systematic, and you can never get ahead. It never lets you get ahead. Here's another very short video, 20 seconds of spindrift and wind ridiculousness. I should say I've got no kind of audio coming out of speakers here, so it should be all okay on my end. Maybe somebody else is sort of somewhere, but should all be okay here. So this is that summit, Tomaconich. I went back to it another day, and the conditions, yeah. Tomaconich, I went back to it another day, and the conditions, yeah. Tomaconich, I went back to it another day, and the conditions, yeah. Tomaconich, I went back to it another day, and the conditions, yeah. Tomaconich, I went back to it another day, and the conditions, yeah. Tomaconich, I went back to it another day, and the conditions, yeah. There you go. I'm still getting a nice echo in my Tomaconich, I went back to it another day, and the conditions, there you go. What I'll do is I'll just be up, and I'm just going to try this here, so keep the video muted. So here's another short video from Leah. I'm just going to keep the video muted, and I can just sort of talk over it. We'll see if that works any better. Yeah, so this is a brilliant day. Yeah, I started finding into March that the weather was starting to open up into better conditions. Yeah, and this was one of them. This was like a rare moment of sun in a morning, and yeah, really nice to get across this ridge. This is really cool here. This is just walking along, and I went, oh wow, look at that cornice. Big cornice here. Yeah. Quite excited by the idea, but I just loved going across Lear. All of that, just superb experience. And one more video here as well, so I'll just keep the mute on and I can talk over it. So when I was doing the whole thing, one of the real cruxes was the Cuillin Ridge. And the Cuillin Ridge is obviously yeah, it's such a big crux of the whole thing. I actually really made an effort with getting into winter climbing, you know, getting more familiar with all of that world, partly with a view. It's like, well, one day I'm going to end up doing this, which is going across the Cuillin on a winter Munro round. And yeah, so really good way to sort of drive towards. Yeah, that was a nice process to go through that. And this is the result. So I should actually shout out for my brother, because my brother Steve put out loads of videos when I was doing the round, and he also shot, there's some drone footage in this, which he also shot as well. We're going to put something together at some point, but I've got all this footage just sitting there, so do something soon. So this is 2 minutes of the Cuillin, and I'll just sort of talk you through it. Yeah, Cuillin Ridge in the Isle of Skye. So there was a funny story here. I ended up accidentally on Skye, and I'm just describing here. I bumped into Mike late at his hostel, and he was like, "Get on the ridge tomorrow." I was like, "What? Oh wow, is it in condition?" And it was in condition. So we are walking up here up to the Inn Pin, and the Inaccessible Pinnacle is like well known as being, well, probably technically the hardest Munro. So this is it here. Humongous fang of rock. That's the summit of the mountain. And I took the first pitch, well pleased to lead that, and then this is just Mike going through to the top. And after that, just tons and tons of this amazing mountaineering ground, all scrambling, exposed winter. Absolutely everywhere. And went away for a while, back to the mainland for a bit, and then arrived back again here. Yeah, this is back on Skye for our last day to finish it all off. This is Stephen's drone footage. So yeah, headed back onto the Cuillin. Dave McLeod came up, got a bit of film on the way. So this is Scuain and Gillian in front here, and the mission was really just to finish them. So over Scuain and Gillian, and yet again more like abseiling. Yeah, threading ropes, abseiling into gaps, scrambling along knife edge ridges. It was brilliant fun. It was like really, really good day. Yeah, the weather wasn't quite as good as I'd hoped, but if you'd seen the previous like 3 weeks or something like that, like this was the best day by a country mile. It's really lucky actually. This is why I thought the backpacking thing couldn't work. In some ways, because like this day that we're on the Cuillin here is like the one calm moment for weeks. And this is us going south to the central portion of the ridge. So there you go, some Cuillin shots there. I need to do something with all that footage. Working on that at the minute. So that was fantastic. And then we start to get into the end of the round. I mean, things are really kind of coming on here. You know, where is this going? You know, I'm past the 200 mark now. I'm getting into the high figures, and it's like, right, I've passed some cruxes. Daylight's opened out. You've really like just put down to get to the end. And this is in Larvin. So Larvin Lunyeven in Noida. This was one of the other rare, lovely days of weather. I just don't put all the bad days of weather in. And a real definite sense by this point of like spring opening up. This is one of the things I really wanted to get out of it, was that over time you see the daylight open out, and you see the sort of the light coming back, and you just get little hints here and there that yeah, the season's opening, and here you were getting like frog spawn and puddles, and the sun was warm again, and just everything goes to gold in the evening. And I just loved it, absolutely loved it. And you could just feel the whole Munro round and sort of breaking the back of it. Getting towards the finish line, everything's just like, this is what I came for. This is what I came for, and this day in Noida just sort of epitomizes that. Yeah, that was great. And this was early mid-March, and it goes without saying, we all kind of know what happened now. I don't want to bring up the C word because we're all sick of hearing about it. Like, I'm sick of hearing about it. But it ended up really having a pretty profound effect on the sort of last little while of my winter Munros. And it's something that, well, from my point of view, certainly sort of, it just slipped into social consciousness. And then it just grew like this sort of lead weight sitting in the background that you couldn't get away from, but it's sitting there. And I'm like just charging. You can see here there's only like a week and a bit left, or maybe a week and a half tops. And you can just feel this thing growing, and it's like, God, is it growing? Is it growing faster than I am reaching the end? And I started to think, right, I really, really, really need to get a crack on here. And even like with less than a week to go, I was still like on the Strafarum and was getting blown off my feet, literally in a corrie. I was like just going boom, slammed down onto the ground with the wind. I was like, I need to do this today. I've got to do this today. I can't wait any longer. And then moreover, so there's a Munro called Amfulchaga. It's up on the Ullapool Road, and it's got a huge river crossing to get to it. And when I did that, when I was hoping to do more, the river was actually deeper than I expected. So I went in up to like my waist, up to this Munro, sloshing, soaking wet below the waist. And I actually had to just turn back, really blizzardy, sort of spindrift kind of day, because unfortunately, it's like, well, you're soaking wet now, you can't do any, but I want to do more because I know this thing is starting to approach. And maybe the weekend everybody remembers. Like the early 20s, something March. This is one of my final days. This was Mona going across to Malardoch, a huge through trip. One of the final real days before it all just shut down. And I am just like forgetting about the big lead weight when I'm doing the walking, when I'm in the hill, just doing the hill, loving it. And then you get a text through or something like that. Somebody texts you, and it's like flood of stress, like this flood of, horrible stress. And like, oh God, I don't want to think about that. But I'm keeping up to date. I do know what's happening because I'm just looking on the phone, whenever there's signal or whether I'm back somewhere. And this was like an amazing day. This is like the North Malardoch Hills all completely loaded up with snow, really mature snow conditions with cornices and big avalanche paths coming off them. It's just brilliant. Amazing day. But again, the phone's pinging because everyone's like, oh man, this is all going south. This is bad, Kev, get finished. And everyone's turning around and saying, Kev, get finished now. And I'm like, I know, I'm trying. I'm trying as quickly as I possibly can. And this was like a 30-something 10, 11 hour day consistently, one of the best days of the winter, but it was starting to be tinged with this like almost desperation, like in a way. It was getting feeling quite desperate, and then it only just got kind of worse. And I was like, I could by this point in Fisherfield, I could count on one hand the amount of days that I had left. And now, okay, we're not quite at full lockdown yet, but like it's pretty much there. And I'm getting texts from people like what are you doing? What's happening? Are you finished? Are you not finished? And I'm just like trying to shut it all out. And a big part of it for me was like, are you doing the right thing? I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Should I stop? If I do stop, imagine going back to the beginning. But for the first time, maybe since the world wars or something like that, going out to the hills is suddenly socially completely unacceptable. And I feel like I'm just in this bind and I can't get out of it. And this sounds like first world problems, and in a way it is totally first world problems because I'm just out in the hills having fun ultimately. But in another way, it's like this is just getting, very stressful basically. So lockdown's getting closer and closer. This is Anchellach the following day. I'm just battering over Anchellach. Anach Moore, on this day, gave a reading of consistent readings of 100, 110 miles an hour, gusts 160. Bialach na Baa was like 90, 100, gusts 140, and it's just down the road. It's just down the road, down the coast at Applecross. It's not that far away. Now I feel like we got really lucky on Anchellach because it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad, but it was pretty bad. And I'm just trying to get these finished. I've got two last videos that really sum it up to finish. So to get to the point, I walked a couple of days into lockdown. I wish I didn't have to have done that, but it kind of seemed in reflection, it was like, I just feel like I've got to sort of do what I've got to do. So the following two videos are like, see me to the end, and they're a really good reflection of they're a really good reflection of kind of what was happening. I'll keep the first one muted and I'll play the second one, so I'll just talk over the first one. This is my penultimate Munro, Shanavrai. Just imagine the whole world has stopped. The whole world has paused, utterly paused. And I just feel like I'm floating completely, like just. And I just was like, I shouldn't finish. I shouldn't really go on. Like, imagine finishing. How bad's that going to look? I care what people think. And yeah, just imagine that. That's maybe I should stop here. This was actually the last Munro of my 4th round, and I still had Ben Lomond to finish, and sort of maybe that you can't hear the audio, but maybe you can sort of see that it's like I should probably stop at 281. So I headed home, and like, yeah, I shouldn't finish. I have to be honest, like everybody, and I literally mean pretty much everybody around about me was like, no, you should, and I'm like, no, but you don't understand. I can't really. I shouldn't. Well, you shouldn't. You know, you shouldn't. Look at what's happened. And then I'm not trying to be dramatic. It was like, this is ridiculous. I shouldn't. Yeah, maybe I should just stop at 281 and kind of call it in good faith. I don't know. Maybe everyone worked their persuasive powers. I'm gonna put it on them because I turned around early away the next morning and we'll try some sound. This is a very, very relieved Ben Lomond. Away the next morning. Yeah, we'll try some sound. This is a very, very relieved Ben Lomond. Away the next morning. Yeah, we'll try some sound. This is a very, very relieved Ben Lomond. Away the next morning. Yeah, we'll try some sound. This is a very, very relieved Ben Lomond. Away the next morning. Yeah, we'll try some sound. This is a very, very relieved Ben Lomond. Away the next morning. Yeah, we'll try some sound.
There we go, the summit of Ben Lomond. Oh my God. There we go, the summit of Ben Lomond. Oh my God.
I promptly headed home and yeah, got out on the bike, built a climbing wall, did all the stuff that you can do at home, had a rest. Weirdest end to something that I really enjoyed doing the whole winter round was a project of years, something I really enjoyed doing, a great process, lots of brilliant hill days, and I just loved it to bits. And in spite of a weird end, you know, that doesn't really define it. Going ahead, I'm looking at doing, well, I'm actually putting together a book at the minute, so I've got all sorts of bits written out, just working on doing that. So have that at some point, hopefully soon. Hell of a lot of work, but yeah, that's going to happen. But that was it. Thanks very much. Big thanks to Botegarten Community Hall for having me speak. It's been really nice to speak for the first time really about it, and to sort of go through all these videos and pictures and sort of put that together. So big thanks to Botegarten. Cheers.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Kevin. That was fantastic. And apologies about the audio over the videos. None of us have got a clue what was going on there, but I don't think it detracted at all. So the images were fantastic, and sometimes the echoes added to the atmospherics. So that was a brilliant talk. If people have got questions and you want to post them in and stick them into the chat box, then please do go ahead and do that. But there's a couple of questions that occurred to me during the question. I mean, one was about how you kept your energy levels up. I mean, you had succession of really formidable days, and there must have been times when you just ran out of energy. And so, did you have any secrets? Did you hear that?
Yep, all good. Yeah, I was just looking at my thing. Yeah, so energy-wise, energy levels, I've always really felt like I really feel like I generally get by on quite good energy in the hills. Yeah, so never been too much of a problem. If we're talking about actually food's a pretty big subject, can go quite a lot into that. Yeah, But generally stuff that I can eat quite quickly in the hill. I can just shove into my mouth, get going, keep moving. Generally stay to, like, in terms of food, dairy and a lot. I've tried to get vegetables in. I'm really bad at that, but just try and eat food that's either a lot of meat, dairy, fruit, veg, and then when you're on the hill, it's more like sugar based, so it's just like something you can shove in and just keep moving. Never really any problems with energy. But that was really it. I also found as well, one more thought was that pub meals were great because someone else prepared the food. Yeah.
Okay. And there's a question from Alex about, did you use any snowshoes or skis at all?
Yeah, not too much. So I'm not a great skier at all. Really not a good skier at all, but I can do a bit of downhill. Snowshoes I used a few occasions, but sometimes I found they were just too specific. So you didn't have a massive range of kind of times that you would use them. 1 or 2 days wouldn't have happened without them, but it's like a handful. Yeah.
Yeah. And Graham's asking, how long did it take you to get fit in preparation for the tour?
So it was really just an ongoing thing. I've got a website actually where I've always like logged what I do, and when I was looking at that, I remember thinking that I really noticed that I just do stuff all year through the year. I go walking all the time just out of enjoyment, and that's kind of its own fitness. You develop your own fitness anyway. There's certainly other things you could do if you were looking to push to like but tons of time on the hills. One of the most helpful things I did a stint at work last year on the Isle of Skye, where the working days were like 12, 14 hours, 5 days a week. And I remember thinking that was brilliant because I would go and do 2 big hill days and the 2 days off and then back to work. So you're doing 12 hours a day every day. And I was 50 days straight. And I remember thinking that's half a Monroe and that's good training. Yeah.
Okay. Ian's asking, Ali's asking, if you could only bag one Munro, what would it be?
A Vagin, Fisherfield.
Oh, Fisherfield. Yeah. Why was that?
Just amazing. Yeah. I didn't put it in. I was actually quite emotional on that mountain and around quite near the end. I was like, that's an amazing hill. That's a stunning hill. Yeah.
And was there any point during the tour when you felt like bailing out? I mean, some of that weather was atrocious when you had days and days of relentless storm and rain and muck. Did you not think, oh, what the hell? I'm going home.
Yeah, I mean, it was never really a thought about like, I don't want to do this. It's never I don't want to do this. It's always I do want to do this. But the problem is the weather. So sometimes you have to pull back a bit and you have to sort of, I want to go fast. One way I could put it is that on a really good day, if the weather's half decent, you can reach a physical limit. Like you can go to your physical limit. But what happens on the winter hills is that you get to a circumstantial limit. So just circumstances conspire. You can't go up that slope, or there's a weather front coming in that's 100-mile-an-hour winds, or something that says you've got to stop rather than you want to. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay. And you're being asked, would you ever consider doing it again, but being self-propelled?
There's a big question.
Leave the camper van behind.
Yeah, leave the camper van behind. Yeah, certainly I've got a good idea. Well, a very good idea how to do it. The only reason that part of the reason I didn't do that actually was that I think it would work much better being like supported. And I worked out that a lot of the many of the quite crucial either hotels or restaurants and things in the Highlands, they're all shut all winter and stuff like that. So you might want more support. And then if you're getting support, you're talking about family, are people free? Are they meeting you drenched off a hill and then seeing you away at 5 o'clock the next morning? It's not great innings for them. And I sort of juggled it and I was like, right, I'm not doing that now, but never say never.
Okay. There's a couple of folks asking, Michael and Lisa are both asking, was it all done through map and compass navigation, or were you using GPS at times?
So I have to admit here, I'm not endorsing it, but I did use GPS quite a bit. GPS is fine. I spent like the first 4/5 of my hill never using GPS, and then I sort of just clicked onto it one day, and then I was like, oh, that helps. Oh, I just use that really helps. So yeah, a lot of just like confirming position. But when you get into the proper whiteout and things, you do have to get the compass out and like, right, you're on it. You know, if you've got kind of hill sense and you've good hill sense, you can sort of feel your way around. It's not using the force in a being blind way. It's just you can really work your way through, yeah, without looking at a map too much.
Okay. Got a few questions about the kit and what was the ME jacket that you were wearing, and do you have a sort of a favourite bit or any bits of kit that you particularly thought were really good, and how kind of obsessed were you about weight on the kit? So there you go, three questions bundled together there.
Good. Yeah, so the jacket was the ME Lotse. Yeah, which is just brilliant as a sort of outer shell. Favorite bit of kit was the Kinesis. So there's a mountain, so it's by Mountain Equipment. It's called the Kinesis. I'm not joking. So this jacket, like 300 grams, I wear it every day now. But it's just extraordinarily light. So I sometimes found I was out in like near like Spindrift, just flying by, and you're in a 300-gram jacket, which is like and I put the shell on top of that as well. So what you have is like your fleece layers, and then I'd have the Kinesis, and then it would just be like a full waterproof if it got like really, really bad. But it was just a brilliant intermediate, and I just used it all the time. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, back to the trip itself. And Thriff is asking, what was the hardest day? I suspect that's probably difficult to distinguish. They all look pretty tough to me.
Yeah. So the hardest day was really well, I do know that one because it took and that was the Memoirs. Was a little notch above everything else. Yeah, so the first 6 were fun. The next 2 felt quite serious, and then I think tiredness, because I think on the winter hills you always have to be quite fresh, so it's just having a massive capacity to absorb the physical effort. So when you're doing a day that actually pushes you to the edge and it's drizzling and you get cold and the temperature's just down, and the last 2 just felt like quite heavy. Yeah, I don't want to be. I shouldn't be here, but I'm going to. Yeah.
Well, the guy that asked that, Thriff, asked that last question. He's just posted another one to say he's 11 years old and he wants to know how old were you when you started doing Munros, and he's done 3. So that's pretty good, Thriff. Well done, mate.
Cool. He's definitely ahead of me. So so my dad took me and my brother up Ben Lomond when I was just turned 10. And then I think I did 1 Munro the following year, Ben Tulican, and then I didn't do any Munros for several years. And then I did, and then I think, so turned 15, just about to turn 16, and I just started doing it like all the time and just didn't stop. Yeah.
Okay. And then another question is, most hell-raising moment. That was Connor's asking that, and also about have you got a next adventure in mind?
Next adventure, not quite yet. I've got some like climbing goals and things like that I'll work on, but hair raising moment. There was actually one little moment when I was on of all places, when I was on the Cuillin. It's like the one time in my life that my feet skidded out from under me, and I actually started going down the snow slope, and just broke the fall in 5 seconds with an exact break. And I would probably say that was like the moment that was like, oh, there was an uncontrolled moment there for a moment. Yeah. But to the same degree, I would actually also have to say that it was repeatedly doing that through mountain work. So first of all, Winter ML, that a qualification anyone could do, and then walking on the hills. That I've got an ice axe arrest diode. And even though that's one time in, say, 13, 14 years for me, it's like that one time that needed it, and it was there.
It worked.
Yeah.
And when it needed to, it was there. That's good.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah. Cam's saying about, how did you manage when you got back and it was all over and you were in lockdown in the city after all that time in the hills and the freedom and the open, and then you're back trapped in the city, unable to get out. What was that like?
Yeah. Not as weird as it probably seems. So the way I sort of thought about it was that I like expected to be finished. Like I expected to do them in rows and then get to Ben Lomond at the end, and then like, right, that's fine. I'll be back in the city. That's cool. Yeah. So and then that sort of happened. So it's like Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
Sort of stuff to get on with. Bike ride.
Gave you time to gave you time to do the washing. Yeah.
For once.
Yeah. Charlotte's asking if you did any camping, or was it all van and bosses?
Van and bothies. Yeah,
Yeah.
lots of bothies. Van as a base, and then for
Yeah.
all the big ranges, yeah, bothy nights, absolutely.
And,
Yeah.
and Neil's asking if you had any difficulties with wet feet and drying your boots, and yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes that's right. I actually just used a couple and then could alternate, which really helped. Yeah, that was right. But generally fine. Generally no problem. Talking of feet actually was, so I did the summer run in 2013 and I used trainers, and my feet got like hammered in the summer. Like they just calloused and hard and sore all the time because I was in trainers. But I found by just wearing a pair of winter boots, lightweight winter boots at that, Triangle Towers of all things, they were just fine. Yeah, because you're protected and you're dry, you know.
Yeah. Gillian's asking whether you had a spare pair. Did you have two pairs of boots? You know, or did you use the same? Yeah. And okay, just moving on. Gary and Shiara are both asking about how to get started with winter walking, and do you have a suggestion for a starter Munro that you could recommend for someone who's a bit of a newbie?
Yeah. So yeah, totally. So getting started, like myself, I get started just by doing it. It's not necessarily the best way to do it. The first ever winter day I had out was Ben Narnain when I was like 15, and I had a seriously scary moment. So there's trial and error, and that could work or it might not work for you. There's various ways to do it. Making the first step is always the hardest part. I can also, I'd also recommend, like you can do courses in these things. Like it wasn't winter walking, but when I started climbing, for instance, I took a course to learn to do that, and it just accelerates. So that's one way to do it, or just get the confidence and just give it a shot. If you're looking at easy ones, don't just look at the hill. Look at the weather as well, because the weather is as important as the hill. Choose an easy hill, but just choose weather that's forgiving and pay attention to weather forecasts. That was totally instrumental in my winter. Like, learn to read a forecast properly and understand what it does in the ground. That's like a never-ending learning process, and it's so fun.
Yeah, that sounds like a really great bit of advice there. We'll just finish up with a couple now. Then Gillian's asking how often were you accompanied, and how were there many days when you were with somebody, or was it mostly on your own?
So vast majority on my own. It's like get up, go do it, and that's fine. Just done it. A few days, I would do with people. I didn't on the talk. I should give a big shout out also to Lorraine McCall, who came in and did bothy trips with me. Because I had folk like Lorraine and Helen and Brad all came in, and like so many people did help in that way. But sometimes they would walk to the bothy and I would do the hills and meet, and then I'd go and do the hills and they'd walk back out. Pretty rare to be accompanied on the hill. I did vast majority myself, but it didn't mean that I wasn't sort of meeting people and syncing up with people. Yeah.
Okay. I said let's just do two more questions and then we'll wrap things up. There's somebody asking about the camera equipment you had, and how you managed to take the photos. But are there any sort of particular cameras that you would recommend?
Yeah. So I mean, nothing special. I've always been a total sucker for taking an SLR up on the mountain. So if I possibly can, then I always did. But the winter weather there was just so like rotten all the time that I ended up just dispensing with the SLR, because unless the weather was amazing, it's like I'm not taking it. So the big winner here was the GoPro, and it's not the pit, it's got compromises, but if you are looking to put a camera into a blizzard, they're just brilliant, and I use them a lot every day.
Okay, that's good. Okay, we keep getting more questions being posted, so I'll just do. I mean, one I think is we've had somebody watching from Poland, and I think this may be the question that we have from Poland. Have you ever got lost or lost your way, and as they did? As Magdalena's asking that.
Oh, okay, yeah, lost in the winter, like you're gonna say
on the trip.
On the trip, yeah. You're gonna say I'm lying, but like actually not.
No. It's the GPS.
GPS helps, yeah, totally. I'm not good at getting lost. I don't like the feeling of not knowing where I am, so I've kind of always just tried to make sure I know where I am. No problems with that at all. Yeah.
And then penultimate question, and any technical courses that you recommend for someone thinking about getting into winter climbing, winter walking?
Winter walking, yeah. I guess the best thing I could say is, like, I mean, there's a lot of providers out there that do it.
Yeah.
There's a lot. I mean, you get the sort of national bodies that do it. There's a lot of independents as well. But regardless, people should just go for something that's specific to what they want to do.
Yeah.
The other sort of slight tweak that people might want to be aware of, that maybe people aren't aware of, is that you get courses that are like qualifications courses. So they will give you a qualification to, say, lead people, but it's not a direct like winter skills course. You can go on a focused winter skills course if that's what you want to do, but it's all out there.
Yeah, so just do a bit of research and chat. Yeah. Okay, the last question then is, did you have a wee dram at the finish when you were on top of Ben Lomond? And if so, what was it?
Good question.
That's Mike G.
Yeah, good question. But do you know what? I honestly don't think I can remember. I don't think I did. I don't think I did. I think I had a little one, but I forget.
I think it must have been a very big one if you can't remember.
Yeah, I still got off the hill. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we'll draw it to a close there. We've been going for nearly an hour and a half now, and it's been an absolutely brilliant night. So, Kevin, we've had way more people plug into this than we could ever fit into the hall. We had well over 600 people watching, and we've had them and we know, there's folks from Ireland, folks from Poland, and the goodness knows where else people have been coming in to watch it. So it's been brilliant and a huge success. So thank you so very much. I mean, a lot of work goes into preparing and planning for a talk, and even more so when it's done in this way. So we're really indebted to you for coming on with us.
And thanks for having me and all that. But thanks for everyone for watching.
Yeah, no, great. Well, and people have been watching. You must go onto Kevin's website, because you'll get a load more tips and ideas and ways of keeping in touch with Kevin in that way. Just before sort of signing off, can I just say that we do this as fundraisers, and normally that we have an admission charge. This is been obviously a free event tonight, but if people would like to make a donation, that would be really gratefully received by the hall to help with the running costs. And there's a GoFundMe page that's been set up. It's on the community hall's Facebook page, and we'll post the link to it on the YouTube channel, and I'll put it into subsequent emails that I send out to folks. If you want to get onto our email list for future talks, then it's on the screen under my name. So it's talksbog@gmail.com. So if you just send an email through to that saying, please add me to the list, and then I'll do that, and you'll be kept informed. And you'll also see that if you've got the YouTube home screen for the channel, you'll see that there's a little bell, I think, in the corner. And if you click on that, then that'll mean you'll get notifications of any other events that we hold on the channel. And finally, then, our next talk will be in a month's time, on Monday, the 23rd of November, when Johnny Hawkins is going to be taking us on his kayaking trip up the Inside Passage. And I think that should all be a really good and interesting talk. It'll be a bit of a contrast to the Munros, all at sea level, but I think look forward to that immensely. So thanks again to everybody. Thanks to Graham, who's here helping me with all the technology. Thanks particularly to Kevin. It's been a brilliant night. And thanks everybody for plugging in and sticking with us. It's been great. So thanks a lot. And I hope to see you all again soon.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheerio.